What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Stack Collectors. Hope you're having a really good day. Hit the wrong button there. What's going on, brother?
Oh, not much. I just want to make sure you knew it was time.
Oh, I know. I love that little thing.
That's why.
Oh, hope everybody is having a good Thursday. Thank you so much for being here again. We are back to episode 10. Can you believe we've already done 10 episodes of Stack Collector?
No, I can't. It seems like it was just yesterday that we did our first one. Hey, wait a minute. Was it yesterday?
Feels like it sometimes, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
All right. Well, let's run through and say howdy to everybody. So, live coin Q&A. Thank you so much for being here, Paul. It's good to see you. Sorsher, Stan, good day. David Carlisle, Jack Riley, what's up, brother? Hope you're doing well. Farm Dog, thank you for all the support. Definitely appreciate that. Again, there are people in portrait mode. I posted the link to landscape mode. It is pinned, so if you want to see that in the other one, feel free to come on over. Costa Rica, David Carlisle, Metal Matt, thank you so much for being in here. Hope you're doing well. Thank you for being here. Dave is not here. I'm glad you're not here, man. Thank you so much for coming in. And we'll say hi to some other people as they pop in, but I hope everybody is doing well.
Welcome, everyone. I'm not going to repeat all the names, but welcome.
That's an angry SR-71.
Oh, there is nothing better. I was a little boy and they were showing off what this plane was. I didn't realize it was near the end of its life cycle when I was a child, but that thing was the bomb in its day.
What's going on, Robert Pintoff? How you doing, brother?
Hey, Robert Pintoff, welcome.
Yeah, Angry's done some amazing stuff. I just sent Steve something for all of his efforts for Wounded Warrior. There's so many people who did some great stuff. For those of you who haven't heard that number, Wounded Warrior was able to raise $118,000 over that last weekend. Again, we're talking a significant effort by, God, more people than I can count. Huge shout out to that team who put that together, countless hours. So huge congratulations. Total in the last, I think it's like 6 streams or something like that they've done, $423,000 raised. Money matched by Blue Angels, a fabulous organization. So again, a huge congratulations to everybody who's working to do that. They've done a phenomenal job on that. So I want to, again, tell everybody thanks. LL, Robert Pintoff, hope you're doing well. Thank you for being here. Hey, Tiger.
Yes.
You know what it is? It's time for the news.
Okay. You have the button.
I don't know. Yeah, I did it on the other side. I don't know if anybody has heard about this, but I ran across a story. Matter of fact, good grief, just a few minutes before the stream. How many people in chat knows that there was a gold deposit, a fairly significant gold deposit, discovered in eastern Finland? Now, why is this a big deal? Well, because they estimated in looking for this deposit, they were looking at, they were, trying to do some iron ore and trying to find some stuff in this area that was rich in iron. And they made a guess that there was going to be a fairly decent deposit here. Yeah, Metal Mat's tracking it. Significant. Now, those are just estimates. Their first core.
Let's move to Finland, dude.
Oh, I'm telling you, it would have been nice to have had stock. We're going to be talking about investing and hedging and collecting in this episode. But this is really good because, again, it talks to some of the information that we're going to be talking about today, and good upside and bad downside. So we'll be talking a little bit about that. Livecoin Q&A just dropped a really cool piece of information in here. They just did a bit over 200 million cents last month. So much for the end of the penny. Thanks, Paulo. Appreciate you putting that up there. Uh, really good piece of information too. But yeah, so when we're talking about this Finland thing, this is going to make this considered a secondary gold rush, an international gold rush. So what are your guys' thoughts on this? Um, it's going to be interesting to see what it does to the price of gold over the next little while. Now, granted, it's going to take some time for them to finish doing the assessment and getting the gold out of the ground and stuff. That's a
Did you say
significant amount of money.
it's going to take them time to finish in finish in Finland? I've ruined that joke.
It was a good effort. I'll give you an E for effort.
I deserve an E minus.
Yeah, Metal Matt, I believe that's going to be the same case. I think that the penny's going to end in 2026, as it should, right? The semi-quincentennial 250th celebration of our nation signing the Declaration of Independence. It should be a significant event. So I do believe that that's what they're going to do as well. All right. Well, you know what? We got a lot to talk about today, so I'm going to jump straight into the topic of the day.
All righty.
All right. Why don't you start a little bit, Tiger? Why don't we talk about what we've discussed?
Well, the topic of today is investing versus hedging. Do you know the difference? Do you know the similarities? Is there similarities? Is there differences? Are they opposite extremes of the spectrum to each other? Well, basically, investing is more like trying to see if you can get a good return on your money in a shorter amount of time. And, hedging is more like a savings to protect yourself so that you have something if SHTF hits. And with hedging, unlike a savings account of fiat money, where the purchasing power decreases because it's a fiat product, being that if you're investing in the metals, you're truly maintaining your purchasing power against the inflationary products that can happen in our society. So that's pretty much a general overlay of what we're planning on talking about.
Matt's over here dropping jokes, and I quite literally didn't get that. I'm sorry. So yeah, that's exactly right. And so we're going to be talking about that. But I want to ask, you guys know I like numismatic side of the house. I also enjoy stacking and putting some wealth aside to store for a rainy day or a bad event. But what about numismatics? Where does numismatics, in the context of precious metals, and I want to leave this open to the chat, where do numismatics fall into this? Is numismatics investing? Is it more hedging? Or is it kind of none of the above? What are your guys' thoughts on where numismatics falls into this? Because depending upon where your mindset is on this particular topic, there's going to be different pros and cons regarding numismatics. And Tiger and I have talked about this a lot in looking at rare coins and semi-precious metals, pre-33 gold. So what if the chat wouldn't mind, put some stuff in chat. What do you guys think about numismatics? Do you think it's more investing? Do you think it's more hedging, or do you think it's none of the above?
I'd like to see what everybody else thinks.
Yeah, so Neil Hahn says speculative investment, low market cap. A pretty decent insight. Depends on the coin. Jack Riley, that's an extremely good point. We'll be talking about that in just a moment. And again, folks, you have to understand, there is no wrong answer. And the reason there's no wrong answer in this is it depends on what your goal is, right? Now, we are not investors. We are not financial experts. We are not advisors. But Paula says it can be all of the above, and that's absolutely right, right? So, but it really does. Jack Riley's spot on. It depends on the coin. So, what I'm going to do before we hit the silver and gold, I'm going to talk about a little bit about the numismatic side of it, just because what I do. But it gives really good insight because there are some situations where it makes sense to do numismatics over just pure metal. One of them is the context of the rare and collectible items, right? And that is, that rarity, that historical significance. A lot of people talk about the condition of the coin. Condition does matter, but not always. The rarity of the coin matters, but it depends. Again, depending upon where you come from and depending upon what you're looking at, you might look at rarity in some instances. We talk about the 1909 SVDB, the 1955 double die, the 1972 double die. People talk about these error coins. We talk about the 1856 double eagle, right? There's only two of them. One of them's at the Smithsonian. We talk about some of the Stella and some of these other ones that are extremely high dollar value coins. And of course, they're going to be more of an investment just because of the amount of money that you're buying. However, there are situations like the 1926 cent that the quality of the coin, because there were such bad strikes in that time frame, far outweighs the rarity of the actual penny itself. Because what makes that particular coin rare is that strike, is that quality. And so there's a number of different factors to look at. Now, we talk about the upside of numismatic investing, and I am going to say investing because if you're looking at these high dollar items, it is more of an investment. The value beyond just the metal itself. There's the historical provenance of some of these. You can look at the metal price, but because there's a numismatic value to it, sometimes they're going to be worth a little bit more, especially when you're talking about scarcity. The other thing is tangible. It's really cool for me, especially when I first started, to hold a coin in my hand from 1873 and go, this coin was 100 years old when I was born. My kids don't care about history when they were younger, but they really enjoyed holding a coin from the 1700s. Right? So there's a level of awe that can be experienced, and it produces an opportunity to talk about things. And in some cases, that can yield fairly substantial returns. What do I mean by that? Well, we look at the coin, the metal, the flowing hair with privy. If you happen to have got one of the privy marks, you spent $100 for the coin, and now it's worth $4,000. But those are rare, right? You really aren't looking at numismatics for the potential upside. Now, there are a couple significant cons in investing in numismatics. One of them is liquidity. And Tiger, you and I have talked about this a lot. Pistol Packing Pilot is a great example when we talk about somebody who had an amazing collection of coins, but couldn't sell the set because it just was too much money. People only wanted the rarity, the one or two seeded $half-dollar coins that were very rare. But his coin was clear worth $10,000 or more. So liquidity in that was very difficult for them. The other one is, and Jack Riley's here, and so he can validate this more than anybody, the need for knowledge. When you're going to be looking at these, there's a significant requirement for knowledge to gauge the value of this and the genuine nature of this coin, to make sure that things are properly graded, and to avoid getting scammed by these things, right? So there are some significant cons when it comes to numismatics. Now, I talked about the numismatics. We're done. We're going to get into the precious metal side of things. But remember that some of the cons in one is the same con in both. And so it depends on the angle in which you're looking at it. Now, I utilized in this particular example numismatics from a investing standpoint I don't think you can really call numismatics a hedge. I don't think that it's a safe investment to hedge against inflation. I don't think it's a safe investment to do against an SHTF situation. So I wouldn't classify numismatics, maybe in a rare occasion, but I wouldn't classify numismatics a hedge. Tiger, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, on the hedge thing, I pretty much agree with you. My very first teacher does a little bit different. That being Miss Lynette Zhang, she's a big fan of the numismatic slab pre-33 gold as something to maintain wealth. And that's a hard one for me to swallow because all my pre-33s are raw. I don't have a slabbed. I have a hard time stomaching buying a really expensive pre-33 slab. So I tend to lean more towards what you said. Sorry, Lynette, that's just I'm still trying to digest your position on that. But to me, uh, I learn things the hard way sometimes. A little stubborn. Started
No,
off,
say it ain't so.
it ain't so. So I started off with um, straight stacking, uh, junk silver, uh, silver eagles, maples, all that. And eventually I got so bored buying the same old, same old, same old, same old that I started going a little bit more into fun things. And eventually started getting into things like this, mainly because I value my military sisters and brothers out there. But I started getting into some fun things, like the Czech lion, even believe it or not, this silverback gorilla, aka my sister. So honestly, I started getting into that a little bit, maybe a little bit too much than a little bit, and now I've come back to full swing. Once I started realizing that I I have a unique situation that I'm going to still try to get my in-laws over from Ukraine if I can get them here. So I started heading more back towards, the silver stacking that is AKA boring. And on the other side of the coin, on the gold side, I did a little bit, but not as much because obviously they're more expensive per item. So I started leaning back towards, American and Canadian bullion, but with more of a lean towards 1933. Not so much. I'm a firm believer in it being protected against a future confiscation, but it's old. It has a little bit more of a desirable, even if it's not slabbed. It's uh, it's uh, it's a piece of history. It's something my grandfather kept put in his pocket. Maybe not as much as say a silver dollar, but he put those in his pocket, and it's a tie to my grandfather. So I tend to lean a little bit more towards stacking and towards weight, but and I see it more as a hedge against inflation. Although I have seen a few times where me having some silver did pay off, aka I had a 100 ounce bar that was from England. It was the British Britannia.
Beauty piece.
Oh yeah, it's gorgeous. And I was going to get a Canadian one to have with it side by side, but then they sold it, and I got upset that I couldn't have it. So I sold the Britannia for $700 profit. Didn't expect that. I just got upset and realized I could buy a gold buffalo, 1 ounce gold buffalo for the price I bought the bar for. I had $700 left over for junk silver. But that's the exception. That's the rule, and it wasn't even planned. It was just a realization I couldn't have what I wanted, so I have it, and then it led into an accidental uh, increase in value. That's not what you're going to see. You're typically going to see in a short period of time that you're going to lose. So the win on stacking is to hold it against time. The only time that you should let it go in a short period of time is when you face what I like to call a personal SHTF, such as when I had sepsis, or such as when I was facing a new set of taxes about 2 years ago that I wasn't normally going to face. Otherwise, this is to be held over time and wait for the reset for both silver and gold. So, I don't see this as investing. And if you get a benefit of it, it's by nature an accident.
So you
No,
bring up a really good point. Let's kind of dig into the investment piece of that. So can you use silver and gold, the handheld? Now, obviously, you have other elements that you can talk about when you're talking about investing. Silver and gold, you can talk about ETFs and things like that. But from the tangible standpoint, the hold it in your hands, do you think that you can call that investing? And if so, why would you say yes or why would you say no?
I think the term investing in the way of stacking is by nature a misnomer. Basically, because in my opinion, it's a maintenance of purchasing power. And it's not so much an investment because in an investment, you want to gain over a shorter period of time. And for a long time, there wasn't even any gains at all in the metals. Any gain in the metal is an indication of a failing economy. If you want to gain, then you have to take the risk of the stock market casino. And in my personal experience, I failed quite a few times. Stocks, bonds, mutual funds, I failed miserably. And a lot of times, when I got out with the same fiat money basically that I got in with, was actually a loss because the purchasing power went down over that period of time. In the topic of metals, this is a really fluky time. The spot price since I started 3 to 4 years ago has grown, and in monetary value, my stack by dollars, by fiat money, is more than what it was a long time ago. In fact, if you look at it, I was initially about 77% keeping what I purchased, and that was also indicating when I had actually made my very first purchase with American Hartford Gold. And as I always say, don't buy from them; they'll rob you blind. So, you're rubbing it in that you got that black beard. Thanks a lot, Frosty. I
Ah,
will get mine sooner or later. You're so evil.
so
Anyway,
go ahead.
but honestly, now because the spot price has gone up in both silver and gold, I'm no longer down in what I purchased. The spot price for both has gone up so dramatically that I'm no longer negative, even with the current purchases. I'm in the positive. And I didn't expect that to happen for, I don't know, 10, 15, maybe even 20 years after I originally purchased it. So that we're in a really funky time in history. So, I think that life will get better when I get that Blackbeard bar. So,
So yeah, okay. So in your case, you wouldn't consider what you did investing. You would consider it more of a hedge. The standard kind of stacker mentality, which is put it away, save it for a rainy day, or a serious SHTF situation.
exactly.
So I'm going to go ahead and read. I've got two investigations. Now Michael's playing my joke back at me. Need my address. Um,
Hi, Pete.
so when we look at investing in precious metals typically involves purchasing assets. Okay, and it doesn't matter if it's silver, gold, platinum, palladium, or in Neil's case, osmium. But the primary goal of this is capitalization appreciation over the long term. Okay, so basic definition. And when you're looking at investing, you've got, again, pros and cons, right? There's positive and negatives to both sides of this story. So when we look at the positives of investing, um, we look at the store of value. So we look at our precious metals, and you'll hear people talk about this, particularly gold, have maintained their purchase power against inflation, right? And that is, you invest in gold to fight against economic instability. Now, a lot of people will argue that's also hedging, but we'll talk about the difference, why that's a little bit different. We also talk about diversification. It's important, whatever's in your portfolio, whether you're having stocks, bonds, whether you're buying mining stocks. Tiger, we talked about that the other day. We talked about what's going on here in Finland, and it would have been nice to have had stock in this particular company because I'm sure their profits are going to go through the roof in the next little while. But there's upside to this, right? And so we look at they reduce the portfolio risk overall. It's a tangible asset. Unlike the paper assets of fiat or stocks, you actually hold the tangible gold or silver or platinum, palladium, whatever it is, in your hands. And unlike numismatics, we talked about numismatics just a few minutes ago, the liquidity in this is way easier to get rid of. And Tiger, again, will remind everybody, his personal SHTF, when he got sick, that came in very handy, being able to trade in your 10-ounce bars to get money to pay bills and do stuff like that. So that's a massive pro. What would you think some of the cons are, Tiger?
Cons? Well, there's cons to both. And the issue of the investment, you can lose your shirt. You can drop a lot of what you initially invested, maybe even go to zero, which that doesn't typically happen with metals because they're always going to be a monetary component to it because it's been around for 6,000 years and it has the broadest base of buyer in the global economy, to quote my dear friend Lynette Zhang. The cons to hedging is the cost. The cost of buying this stuff has increased over time. Granted, silver is still somewhat affordable, but gold it's almost doubled since I started stacking 3 to 4 years ago. That's good if you already have it, bad if you don't. Somewhere in the middle if you want to keep what you got but you want to buy more. So the cost is increasing over time. Yes, buy the dip if you can. Most of us don't have the freedom to do that. We have to work. The second best is dollar cost averaging, which is mainly what I do. I buy when let's call it what it is. I buy it when I'm not working. And I really don't pay attention to the spot price because for me, it's not about the dollar I put into this stuff. It's about the amount of ounces I have and are getting, because I can't spend the time or the mental power worried about the spot price and the premium price.
Agree.
I want to build my ounces. And to quote someone I followed a lot until he quit doing a lot of videos, Silver Joker, it doesn't matter what the spot price is or the premium price. If you don't sell, it doesn't affect you. The only time it affects you is when you put it back on the market if you're selling it. That's when the spot or premium price affects you. If you buy it, you hold it, and you don't have to sell it, then you're not collecting dollars, you're collecting ounces. And that's where the beauty part of this whole thing is. It maintains its value over time.
Well, okay, so I'm gonna interject something here. Um, yes and no, and this is kind of a fallacy. Um, it only holds its value dependent upon where you bought it at, and I'll explain what I mean. If you were with the Hunt brothers during that time frame and you bought it at $40 an ounce, you're still not breaking even.
I'll give
Okay,
you that.
so that's a little bit of a misnomer, and this goes to some of the cons about doing the investment. Okay, now, L, you worry about price because you buy what you can afford. Okay,
True.
but it's just like buying stocks or getting dividends from stocks. Reinvest your dividend back into the stock, right? And you'll end up with more in the long term than if you were to cash out your dividends. Buy. Now, you always want to try and buy as low as you can, but the constant thing when you're talking about investing, and I'm going to say this as investing, okay, we haven't got to hedges yet. We're talking about investing. When you're doing that, it's about pushing it in. Hey, what's going on, Founded Buried? No C, how you doing? So when we're talking about investing, we're talking about putting money, right, putting that capital into that item. But that becomes a con. And so one of the cons with that is that all of your capital is tied up in precious metals. So what does that mean? Well, you're tied to volatility, especially when silver, less in gold, but especially in silver. You're tied to a volatility, and you have to worry about storing it, whether it's a safe or a safety deposit box or a vault, or whether you're going to do a bullion depository, whatever it might be. There's also associated costs, just like with a fund. If you're going to do that, then there's going to be something that, you're going to have to pay. And if you don't pay attention to those fees, you can lose your butt. So it's not that you can just put it away and not forget about it. You have to maintain awareness and what's going on. Now, it's different if you're putting it in a safe, but then you have to worry about your, security, because then you have another precious metal that you have to stack, which is lead. Right. And so there's other security issues regarding that. Now, with that being said, let's shift to what you were talking about just before and talking about hedging, because that's more of where stackers are. And not all stackers, but when you talk about preparing for the mitigation of financial risk or the mitigation of some offset of a financial strategy or some major event that occurs, usually it's a hedge against inflation or a hedge against whatever that thing might be impacting your cash savings. So that's what a hedge is, right?
True.
So
Now, I do want to interject on that. And a lot of what you said is true. And honestly, as you said, the volatility of silver is more. It's a general overall climb, but it's all over the place. Where gold just has a little bit and it's still climbing. But when I had my personal SHTF, my choice was to sell silver, not gold, because I was riding the volatility wave, hoping maybe I could buy it close to what I sold it for and not lose anything in the process. Where if it was gold, there was a really good chance I'd have to buy it back at a larger dollar figure than what I sold it for. So in my analysis of it, it was better for me to sell the silver to pay the bills than to sell the gold. Now, on the other side of the coin, if we hit a true reset, I'll sell the gold, hoping to sell as little of it as possible to pay off the house, so that we don't have it taken by the banks or the government. But I did want to interject in that. So, what was your question now?
So when we're talking about hedging, and most people, when we talk about stacking, you're talking about it's not an investment, it's a hedge against X,
True.
Y, or Z, right?
True.
So when we talk about hedging, what does hedging mean to you? What is your idea? I'll read the definition here in just a minute, but what's your idea as a stacker, right? Because I'm a
It,
collector
it,
and
it,
I
it,
look at things a little bit differently. But as a stacker,
it,
what is your idea of a hedge?
it's better than a savings account. Say, like I said, fiat is fiat, and even a savings account, you're not going to get much, and you're still going to lose your purchasing power. But hedging is, to me, more like a safer savings account because the growth of the metal's purchasing power is maintaining the declination of the purchasing power of the fiat dollar. So that's where the hedge comes in. You're placing uh, you're placing your faith in the ability to still maintain purchasing at the same value. So if you bought if you know a dime uh, when I was a kid, 2 dimes when I was a kid would get you a tank of gas or a gallon of gas, sorry. Then 2 dimes today is somewhere in the same a ballpark of getting you a gallon of gas. That's what your hedge is. It's purchasing about the same amount as what it did in the past, which is a whole lot better than savings with the failing economy. So your definition of hedging, let's see how that compares to my experience.
So, and the definition that I laid out, and again, I'm not reading you the exact definition, but hedging is basically a risk management strategy, right? And the purpose is to protect your wealth or mitigate against financial risks. Now, that can generate specific profits, but it's not really designed around making profits as much as, like Tiger said, it is to kind of lock the price in for future production. We talk about SHTF a lot in the stacking community, which is when the hits the fan, or we talk about significant issues with cyber and things of that nature within the crypto market. These are those things that we want to offset against. But it doesn't necessarily have to be the precious metal that you have. I mean, there are hedge funds that offset various sectors. So you can buy in a futures market, but then you would hedge against something else. So it's just a way. It's basically like an insurance policy, basically for your wealth. Now, with it comes some problems. Some of the problems is that when you're hedging something, you don't have a whole lot of upside. Now, Found It Buried said that, hey, if I'm going to try to keep this simple. If I'm going to buy something, I want to try and buy it low, sell it high, or I can fill a book and make each coin worth a little more because it's as a part of the collection. That all depends upon market value. And so have a good one, bud. Take care. And while it's in some cases it is, and in some cases it's not. The problem is that sometimes we make imperfect correlations to what our asset will be in the future. And so with hedging, again, just like within numismatics, there's a lot of understanding the complex nature of the finance. This is, again, we're not financial experts. We're not saying, do one, do the other. But it takes a little bit more to really understand. This is why gold usually is a good hedge, because when you look at it against the rising cost of inflation over time, it's beat inflation, right? And it's one of the few things that's actually been able to do that. So when you look at it, you'll hear people talk about investing in silver and hedging gold. They still invest in gold, but they're utilizing gold more as a hedge than they will silver. Why? Well, because silver is volatile. You don't want volatility in your hedge. You actually want to avoid that at all costs. You want to make sure that you maintain that strategy, which means that your premiums and your options are going to be maintained for the future. So it takes a little bit more knowledge of the item, takes a little bit more perspective of the item to actually choose a good item for a hedge. Now, going back to what you were saying, talking about the positives of a hedge, go ahead and kind of elaborate on that. So you were talking against inflation protection and currency devaluation. Remember, we talked about those things. So elaborate on that a little bit.
Oh, basically in the pros, in hedging, you're protecting your options. Okay, with fiat, over time, the purchasing power goes down, your options go down. Just like if you're flying an airplane, the further you fly out, the less fuel you have, the less options you have when something bad happens. So for me, it's kind of like fiat is like flying an airplane. You're losing your gasoline the more you're flying it. Hedging, it's like a magical full tank. Your options do not decrease. And like you said, in the case of gold, it might even outperform inflation. You might actually gain, which is kind of an investment, but you're definitely maintaining your purchasing power. Basically on investing, its pro is the potential to gain money over a much shorter period of time, increasing your overall wealth. But the question is when is that going to stop? In fact, you invest in the stocks, the bonds, the crypto, the whatever. You might get a gain, but how long will that last before it takes a downturn? I've seen that happen loads of times. In fact, it's one of the reasons why I got into stacking, because my past experience with stocks, bonds, money markets, even crypto was that I didn't maintain. I lost. This I've maintained. In fact, purchasing power wise, like I said, I was about 77% of what I purchased was in the metals, and now because spot price has gone up, it has shown an increase in what I have just on spot price alone, and my portfolio, my spreadsheet shows that, because you can't always guess what the retail value of what you're going to get when you sell, but you can base it on spot price because that is posted all the time. So when you look at when I purchase it, especially early on, 77% approximately. Now I'm over 100%, simply because I got in before the spot price started moving. You can't do that in fiat. And no, like I said, in stocks and bonds, crypto, you have the potential for a serious upswing. The question is, how long is that going to last?
Well, that brings a really good point, and I want to go back to something that Paula put in chat at the very beginning of this episode. And if you missed it, she said that right now is a good time to buy pre-33 gold. Now, I'm going to go back to your teacher, Lynette Zhang, and say what she's saying right now makes more sense than it did a year ago, in my opinion.
Or even longer ago.
Why is that? And that is because right now, thank you so much, Metal Matt. I appreciate, thank you for the super chat. Very much appreciated. The thing about pre-33 gold right now is you're buying the numismatic value, but you're also gaining that numismatic provenance, which is going to help retain the value should the price of gold come down. And when you look at this, you look at situations where, and it happened with the Eagles when the prices went up, your spot prices and your premiums for certain pieces don't drop on numismatic value or like they do just with the pure bullion. Look at some of the situations where the Morgan dollars, you had the silver prices go way up. Well, Morgan dollars didn't drop. That premium didn't plummet through the floor when silver dropped. Those prices actually stayed high for quite some time, not just because it was silver, but because there was a numismatic aspect tied to this. So while it's not, numismatics isn't a hedge. But sometimes if you're smart about it and you invest the right item, sometimes it can have a secondary or what we call a tertiary, a second or third order effect of acting as one in those particular situations. Now, when you're looking at the ones that he's showing here, which are common Morgan, common peace dollars, quality in those does matter. But as price goes up, the value goes up, but the numismatic value of those also stays up. So when that drops, again, you have a little bit more cushion with your numismatic. And this is why, again, Paulo is absolutely right in stating that the pre-33 gold right now is a good buy. Now, Tiger and I talked about it. If I'm going to be buying gold, I always try to buy pre-33 gold. One, for the numismatic historical context of it. And number two, just because I like it. It's fun to have, to look at it, know what happened in those various years, and find coins that, they're 150, 160, 170 years old, seeing things that happened during a very specific time frame and going, oh, this is really cool. This is the same year that the mint in Dalanega was taken over, and this is, it became, instead of federal property, it became the property of this, or Charleston, right? When Charleston Mint, or New Orleans Mint, when New Orleans Mint was taken over by the Confederacy. And then you started to see coins that come out. There's a historical piece to that I love, right? You guys watch my channel, you'll know that. But now is a really good time because with the prices being up, you're basically getting the numismatic value free. And so that is really good when you look at later on, should the economy go up and the price of silver and gold start to drop. Now, I'm not telling you to go do that. That's not my investment advice, but I definitely do think that Paula was right on that. And I lean that direction. And I think Lynette Zhang understands that. She might have understood and had forethought on that long time ago, but I didn't really see the relevance of it until it broke that initial thing at like, what is it, 3,200 or something like that, 6 months ago. Yankee was talking about in one of his streams, and I don't remember if it was with Tim or if it was with Silver Dragons, when they were talking about it going up 1,000, and it's reducing the amount of time. About every 10 years it goes up $1,000. We're at a time right now where it seems like it's going to double that in half the time. So what does that mean? Now is a pretty good time if you're thinking about investing. Yes, it's expensive, but now might be a really good time to jump in. But it's speculative. So when you're talking about investing, coin collecting, hedging, it's really important to do your research. Surround yourself by people who know these things. I am not going to tell you what you need to do. Tiger is not going to tell you what you have to do. But you want to surround yourself with people who do have the insight, and people like Lynette Zhang, who have done this research and done this stuff. Yankee has done a lot of this. There's a lot of really good minds out there. Salivate Metal, who stays on top of the news, and man, that guy's a machine, constantly putting out information. Pay attention to these folks because, again, information is power. And if you have any questions, always reach out to us and we'll try to connect you with the people that can answer those. I think that was fun. What did you think about that, Tiger? Did you enjoy that conversation?
I really did, especially since you're giving me that Blackbeard bar. Thank you very much.
You're funny.
No, I really enjoyed the conversation. And this particular live stream not only is a great re-education for those of us in the community, but more importantly, if we have any newbies that are here or come to see this live stream later, this is an excellent topic for newbies to understand that this is a good thing for them to do to protect their family and their future. We got to. Sometimes we, as the precious metal community, stackers, collectors, numismatists, the whole gamut, we get wrapped up in it because we're already in it. And I particularly like to really focus on leaving messages for the newbies. Whether we're talking about new people in our community or in particular, in my case, my two very young grandsons, which I hope will see these at a later point in their life when they are no longer little children, and see that, hey, this is stuff that's been going on for decades, centuries even. And Frosty and Grandpa have left us clues how to take care of our families now that we're grown up. Whether we're talking about newbies in the future, newbies currently, or our current people who we all need to go back to the basics. So I think it was a great topic.
And this is the purpose of Stack Elector, right? To bring numismatics and stacking together in a single community. Like I said, Tiger and I had talked about this for well over a year. How do we do this? How do we really share the best of both worlds and really just help our community become smarter? There's so many great people that share so much information. Exactly, Metal Matt. Everyone was once a newbie. Good grief. I say this jokingly. I said this at work. We were talking about a very specific topic. And it was like the only time I've ever been classified an expert is when I was conceived. But it's one of those things that we want to tie good people who do really good things together with information and a tying of community. And that's what our purpose is. So, but Tiger, I got a deal for you. Okay.
Okay.
You want this bar?
Okay, you're teasing me.
Yeah, no, screen for screen. We'll do a straight trade.
You want the SR? No, you want my Carson City.
He's like, hell no. No, and I am just kidding.
Guys in chat, listen to me. I got a little bit more into numismatics after, not as much as Frosty did, but when we were talking about doing this collaborative effort, him being much more of a numismatist than I was, but I still like, I kind of thought, it'd be nice if I had something similar. He might have way more numismatic pieces than I do, but me having onesies, twosies would put me in at least a little bit of the same sandbox. So I look for things that I can put here on Stack Collector, and wouldn't you know, every time I have something to put here on Stack Collector, this one wants to take it from me.
Oh, no. Let's be clear. I always joke with him. So Tiger and I have this running.
You guys.
Tiger and I have this running joke. Okay, Jack, I'll get you. I said goot, but good pictures of that, Morgan. I'll have Tiger send me those. But Tiger and I have a kind of a running joke. He always has to buy things in twos, and I told him you can't do that. You have to buy things in threes. And he for a while he's like, well, I do. I put two in my stack in case the wifey wants one, and then I have one to look at. And I'm like, well, then you got to do four. And he's like, I don't understand. It's like, well, you have to have one for my wallet, right? There's always something. Which one? Okay, so I have 4 blood bars. Well, actually, you have 3. So it's just something that him and I have always joked about. Just like him saying that I'm sending him this piece. This is something that Tiger and I have done because, what do friends do? We banter with each other, and it's extremely important.
Well, tell him how you got that piece.
Oh, well, yeah. So, that piece, yeah, he hooked me up with it. So
I've been waiting for my chance to buy one of those. I got that in one of the races, and I'm like, no, my buddy here loves everything Navy, so let him have the first Blackbeard bar. I'll get the next one. So
fun stuff.
Yeah, the first time I ever did that, his jaw hit the floor. It's like, what?
Yeah, we've done a lot of that stuff for each other. But again, This comes with community, but Tiger can speak to this, and I am very adamant. Tiger and I, when we're conducting business, even as friends, we're always on the up and up. When Tiger and I did the peace dollar thing, we looked dollar for dollar, got people's input. We looked at what was going on. He gained more stock heavy, but I gained the numismatic pieces that I needed for my peace dollar book. So Tiger and I have a very, very clear understanding. Neither one of us tries to take advantage of the other. And you need that in this community. You need to make sure that you have people.
Humor. He tries to get me every time on the humor.
I just tease you just because that's what friends do. But it's very important. Now, I'm not joking about. Hold on, Tiger. Hold on.
It's on the joking arena. You try to catch me off guard and get that deer in the headlight look.
Yeah. So, but the thing that's important about the friendship that Tiger and I have is that we want to be an example of have trusted partners. Have people in this community that you can bend over backwards for, and you know that they will protect you. And what we want to do is we want to be an example of that. We want to integrity first, above all else. We were both military. It's one of our core values. It's the number one core value. And we want to make sure that we share that with you. So when Tiger and I joke about this, we do banter about this, make sure you understand when we are joking, but we take this quite seriously. All right, folks. Well, it is time on my end. Tiger, you want to wrap it up with some how do you do's and goodbyes, and then I'll wrap up.
Well, I want to thank everyone for coming. I usually don't do a whole lot of hellos to everyone once we get started talking. So for those of you who've come in later and I didn't say hello to you, hello to you. So, but I wanted to thank you all for coming because I really want to build Stack Collector so that you all can have what we all have. Okay? I get a good buddy. He gets a good buddy. I get someone who understands the numismatic side. So if he sees something that doesn't quite fit, we talk about it and we find out what's going on. Sometimes I think I don't offer as much to the table, but I do get a really good friend. You all need someone you can rely on because I can analyze stuff like this all day long with all the science I have and borrow the science I don't have and be able to verify. But I don't have the numismatic skills that Frosty has, or say Jack Riley has, or the other Jack whose name I'm forgetting right now. But basically, I don't have that skill. I have a little bit of numismatic skill, a little bit because of hanging out with Frosty, but I don't have that skill. And, we can help each other, whether we're doing a trade where I get more weight, he gets more numismatic, or just, hey, what do you think about this? And, there have been times when I sent him pictures from the pawn shop and just to see what he likes and thinking, okay, he probably has loads of these. All of a sudden I'll get, hey, get me that piece. You don't know what you're missing if you don't cross the collector, stacker, numismatist fence. It helps everyone. It is a pure symbiotic relationship. So I want you all to have something like that.
Oh, see.
What did he say?
He's like 3 hours later.
Can I time him out?
Oh, that's funny. Well, no, what he's saying is true. You need to tie people. And again, you look at the people that are in here. We've got stackers, we got collectors, we got people who do metal detecting. We got all sorts of members in this community. And why is that? Because there's genuinely kindness in this community. And while it's important to know quite a bit of stuff, no one can be the expert on everything. And it takes a village to raise people. And it takes a village in this case to make sure that we're protected and we're well informed. So, all right, well, I'm going to say my goodbyes. I appreciate you all. Thank you all for coming in. Again, share this out. We're episode 10, folks. We are about to the place where we'll discuss if we're going to do something big. But what I would like to do is next week or in 2 weeks, we'll have one on tiger stackers, and we'll go through and we will do something. But in that stream, we're going to do our first pretty decent giveaway. We'll talk about some of the stuff. I'll talk to Tiger about what we got going on. But I want you guys to share this out. If you're not a subscriber to myself or to Tiger, please go make sure you do that. And we'll talk more. We'll be put some videos out and we'll talk more about this. All right, folks. I hope you guys have a wonderful night. And if I don't talk to you before, be well, be blessed, and we will see you